Once I've closed that data source, it will bring that into Excel itself. And you'll see up here in the upper right-hand corner, I have the ability to pull that data back again. So let's imagine that a month down the road, Wikipedia changes their information. When I hover over this query, you can see at a glance, and here let me get rid of this, you'll see at a glance that it's giving me a preview for what's contained within that actual cleanup. So the first time that I loaded the data, it showed me what Wikipedia had said those columns and rows are supposed to look like. Now that I've applied all those transformations, it's actually showing me what it looks like in my scenario. So it shows record high and high temperature date rather than the names of the columns that Wikipedia had. When that data gets updated, this preview will update as well. And I can choose, if I want to simply refresh the data and pull it. So let's say that this week Alabama gets a new record low on the books. Someone goes into Wikipedia, they update that information. I'm instantly able to go in there, click refresh, and pull that information down into my sheet. So that can save potentially hundreds of hours if you're doing repeatable Excel tasks over and over again. And I can, as I mentioned earlier, always go to someone and choose to send them that information that's contained within this advanced editor. They can choose to even edit it within the screen themselves. So if I want to provide someone a quick information source, this includes all the transformations and the public data source that I pulled it from. It's just a text file. I could easily send this to anyone. Once I've got the data, I can start making changes to it. A good example of how a business analyst works is they'll typically clean up the data and import it in and then look at the data source as it pulls in. So here's a great example. I can see right off the top, I've got a couple of odd looking columns in here that say that the date times are negative or too large to display. At that point, I would probably flip back to the model to determine why those dates weren't showing up. In this case, it's because for those particular states or locations, the dates are so far back in time that Excel says, hey, you can't possibly mean something from 1880. And so I would need to actually put in some sort of placeholder to be able to surface that. Once I've got this information in my table, though, I can do whatever I want to. I can build a Power Query. I can build a Power Map. I can choose to do a pivot off of it. I'm going to actually show off what that Power Map instance looks like. So this data that I pulled is obviously geographical in nature. It's going to say, hey, where's the data that you're pulling from? And this is in a regular Power View item. It's a globe, but I can, if I want to, choose to flatten that globe. And it'll walk me through what I need to do to be able to get access to the information within it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and grab the record low and throw it in here. And grab the record high and throw it in here. And you can see at a glance, I've got a nice visualization of where those data points are and which ones are good and which ones are bad. And you know, when you're looking through this, one of the things that I like to do when I have a visualization of this nature is to look for outliers. Because that's, after all, what business intelligence is all about. It's very easy to see, hey, some of these states have very modest negative temperatures. Some of them have very large highs. You know, if I were to look at this, I could see at a glance, hey, I've got some information with here. I can still layer on additional information. I could pull in, say, a 2D chart if I wanted to give me added contextual information for what I need to be able to say, okay, it's great that I can see it in 3D, but let me flip this by 2 dimensions as well. And maybe I'm going to flip this to see, you know, starting from highest temperatures to low. And I can scroll through this to see what that difference looks like. When I go through this, I can see at a glance, there's a couple of outliers here. There's one here that the record low is actually positive, which seems crazy until you actually scroll over here and realize that's Hawaii. Their record low is still above negative degrees in Hawaii. So perhaps that's the place that I need to be right now instead of Washington, D.C. Not every data source is going to track to a geographical area, but I would say if you're looking for ways to get additional oomph to your business, be considering data sources that aren't the traditional ones that you naturally have access to. Just because you have a lot of Excel worksheets right now doesn't mean that there isn't data living in some other database or some public data source that might be of equal or even more use to you than your current environment.